being anti-woke has got to be the most miserable hobby.
Yeah, so there are a lot of journalists right now and a lot of, the gaming media in general that is really furious that people are criticizing this game. Now, obviously, we won't know until it releases if it's good, if it's bad, if it feels like God of War. Maybe it'll be a wholesome story about this woman thinking about her son and her husband. It's going to be sad and it's going to be emotionally driven, and that would be good. But ultimately, people do not like the millennial cringe writing that the cube slash ribbon sword has in the first few minutes. A lot of people have a lot of questions about this version of this character and what she's going to be doing throughout this game. And, obviously, she's not just like a normal girl or a normal chick who's doing these things. So it does make sense that she would be strong and she would be able to hold her own to a certain degree. But we've seen so many series taken that have males as the lead and then changed. And it's not like they're moving completely away from Kratos, but that doesn't mean that you still can't criticize the game that they are presenting and the game that they are going to be banking on for the next several years. And in the minds of, people like Synth Potato and the media, if you criticize, you're not a real fan of something. And I think that argument is absolutely fucking ridiculous, because the reason why we criticize things and the reason why we criticize movies, TV shows, video games, developers and studios is because we want them to do better. We have something that we've known and loved for so many years, and we expect a certain level of quality or storytelling. And criticizing doesn't mean that you hate something. We want companies and creatives to do better, but that's not the way that they ever present it, because they hate gamers, and a lot of these people are either male feminists or activists, and ultimately they don't care about preserving the industry. They just want to change it.
So I have this opinion about games journalists, and I'm not sure if I've said this on any of the previous streams that I've been on, but I feel like, and this is just an opinion, I've got no facts on this, I just feel like that they sometimes come across like they've gone to university, got themselves a degree in journalism, they're not being able to go down the direct line of journalism that they wanted to, and have settled for games.
Oh yeah, they thought that it was going to be an easy win for them. They thought that they were going to, they couldn't make it at a mainstream political outlet like an MSNBC. And so then they said, oh, the video game industry, that's changing because of Gamergate 1. We might as well work our way into that space. It's going to be easy to infiltrate, and we're going to be able to, gain, hopefully, well, not for us, but hopefully their line of thought was hopefully we can gain some power and become figures of authorities in this space, and gamers have rejected it.
It's just it's almost like painful to read some of these articles. Like that article that you was just showing there, I'm now gonna end up, when this finishes, end up finding that online and reading through all of that. That's probably gonna end up being a video of mine soon. You just know 9 times out of 10 these journalists, they're just projecting. They just don't understand the lowly, normal, bog standard, normal man gamer. They just got their own anxieties, their own peer pressures that they're putting out. I feel like a lot of games journalists are not writing for us. They're writing for each other because they're in their little bubble. They just want to impress their mates. Oh, what's the most scathing thing that you can write about them, about the plebs?
I mean, yeah, I do agree with that to a certain extent, but they're also writing articles like this because they want this to be the norm. They want the general gaming audience to shift from being men to being, as they say, diverse and inclusive. And they claim that they want this to be a safe space. But really what they want to do is ultimately push their message and ultimately infiltrate to change culture. And so that's their end goal. It's not to appeal to gamers, it's for things in their message to spread as wide and as quickly as possible, because look at how much money the gaming industry makes. In 2025 it brought in over $200 billion.
I have a quick thought exercise for everybody. So this is not my thinking at all. I actually have a response to this, but I'm curious the panel here. Like this, we live in a time now where 30-plus-year-olds are still part of the cultural landscape, right? So back in the day, a 30-year-old, they had a family and they were kind of culturally out of it, right? There wasn't cartoons made for them, there wasn't video games made for them. They kind of turned into adult, and they basically did adult things. And now we have 30-plus-year-olds who are still watching these movies, still involved with these properties and things like that. Is there any element here that, and again, not my views and opinions, but just thought exercise. Is there any element that what we're coming up against right now, this friction, is that the younger generation is trying to have a voice culturally, and we are saying that's not what we grew up with, that's not what we like, and so there's friction between the two because they are speaking for their age group, and we're trying to hold on to ours. Again, not the views and opinions of Phoenix, but just wanted to throw that out there in case that was ever an argument or conversation. Curious what you all think.
I personally don't think so, because I feel like a big group of people that are trying to change culture are slightly older. We're talking like mid-30s. Well, the average age of a gamer in the United States, I think, is like 37, but I don't think that it's like a younger generation or the younger audience that is ultimately trying to change culture, because the developers are not younger, the journalists are not younger. There isn't like a large wave of younger people making their way into the video game industry. We'll just say, for argument's sake, like behind the scenes, whether that's the media or development or writing or anything like that. It's millennials. All of this is coming from millennials.
Again, this is one of those things that if I could sit and write down everything and put it into coherent order, so please forgive me if this is really jumbled, and feel free to then steer me back on track if I go off piste here. You have boomers. Boomers have got all the money. Boomers was able to buy a whole house on one income. They was able to progress their lives a lot quicker than we can. They could have children younger because they could afford to have children. They could afford to have someone stay at home. They could afford to buy a house on like a postman's wage. Millennials, we don't have that luxury. We don't have the money necessarily to be saving up or being able to get a mortgage on like a decent property when we're younger. So because we've still got some disposable cash, we're more likely to invest in our nostalgia. So things that we liked when we was younger, we're more likely to be into retro gaming and buy all stuff like this. We're more likely to get cross about things because we've got the time to be cross about things, because we can't progress in life like we would like to be able to, like our parents have been able to do. So we can probably be a bit too hyper fixated on things that get on our nerves, and then be more cross about things that have gotten on our nerves, simply because we haven't got bigger things to worry about necessarily, or we do, and we're burying our heads somewhat, and it's easier to think about, I don't know, Laufey in God of War and the strangeness of that 20-minute segment on State of Play. We've got all of our problems as millennials, and then you've got the next generation who are entirely poisoned by social media with their own strange priorities that we don't get, who are probably in a much worse financial position than we are as like a generation. And what was the question again?
Yeah, it's just a thought exercise. Is there a potential here that because now that 30-plus-year-olds are still in the market of what used to be a younger person's culture, that we are holding on to something and we don't want it to change, and it's the younger culture saying that's what we're in conflict with. So
we're in the generation that had SNESs and Mega Drives and like the PlayStation. We was kids when the PlayStation came out. Some of us in our same millennial generation had Ataris and microcomputers and Commodores, etc. So we're in the generation where, obviously in young Gen X as well, where we've grown up with this. So this is something that we've had from childhood, we've carried it through. Whereas we've now got a generation of adults who, when they was young, it was a PS3, or when they was young, it was the first iPad that had come out. Their choices and their priorities have changed, And obviously we've got less disposable income as our parents' generation, and then Gen Z has probably got less disposable income as what we've got. So they're not necessarily, I just feel like all of the people that I know who are Gen Z, most of them don't even have like a PlayStation or an Xbox. Or if they do, they have it simply to play Fortnite. Like my sister has one. My sister's not a millennial. And she literally has a PlayStation 4 that she's had for years, and she only plays Fortnite because it's just totally not a priority for her. We've had the same household. We had the same experiences growing up. We was both obsessed with Tomb Raider when we was little, both of us. Except I've grown up and carried on being like really into gaming my whole life. And then my sister's just, now she play Fortnite once a fortnight, maybe more than that.
I think the numbers are not on that little thought exercise. The numbers are not, the numbers don't really spell that out. If it really was that the youth was in conflict with our ideology of what culture should be, you would be seeing massive success for the things that we are disagreeing with. But typically, we really kind of usually get it right for the most part. Here and there, maybe we get it wrong, but these are not the games and films and things like that we go like, whoa, this is way too agenda or woke or whatever you want to call it. The numbers don't show there. No one is seeing those things. No one is playing those things. So I just was curious what you all think, but I do think the numbers are on our side, that if anyone ever brought that conversation up, that it's pretty quick to put to bed.
Our goal is 200,000 subscribers. Help us. Let's get there.